Yes, now we are recording.
Cool.
Perfect. Welcome today. It's the third episode of Diversity is the Game Changer. And in my culture, the third thing, it's absolutely magical, perfect thing. And we believe that before you should really succeed, right, you should do everything from the third time, not for the first time. And I'm so happy that today for my third podcast, I'm hosting so very, very special guest to me. Really, I'm so honored and thrilled to have Nathaniel, and he has already tried to teach me how to say it right. I'm sorry, Nat. Nat is
That's okay.
easier. So yes, I'm so really privileged to have you today because uh, this subject neurodiversity, it's quite new for me and for many people, but I already feel it's my great passion, and it will be definitely lifelong passion. I kind of feel that it was always in my heart. I just didn't know the definition. How really should I put in the box how all these aspects I can kind of puzzle in one, and how I can call it. I always felt that I was different, also like you, but I didn't know the difference, whether it's good or it's bad. But now I'm so grateful I could discover the not negatively charged definition like disabled, handicap, or something, but that neurodiversity. And I'm so happy to have you. You're absolutely the great champion of neurodiversity. You're my role model, especially your TED talk. It has so much influence on me. So I basically said this night after I could hear you first time, and I made the whole raw version of my TED talk about neurodiversity, and I already sent to my coach. And I have coined, like, I believe it's new, but even like not disability, because I don't like this also disabilities, dysfunctional ability. I also call them diff ability or div ability, different ability, divergent ability, and so much of it to you. So welcome to our episode, and today I'm so happy, like I said. So welcome, and absolutely feel free and be as possible different as you can do whatever you want here. It's no boxing at all. Me as well. You see, I'm trying to be a little bit different for you as well today. Like, break the rules. It's my husband's clothes actually, and one black, one
Very
pink.
nice.
So welcome.
No, honestly, it's a pleasure to be here. Just looking at your background, so impressive, and any opportunity to chat about this lovely brain of ours, more the merrier.
And now I would like to start with a brief introduction of your really bright and so diversified career. And why I'm saying brief, because oh my God, at so young age you have achieved already so many accomplishments. So if I should sit here and talk a little bit about everything you could manage to accomplish, then it's not just one podcast. I don't know how many episodes we should have, but I will try to pack a little bit.
All right.
So Nat is an award-winning neurodiversity expert, like I have already mentioned, an advocate dedicated to empowering neurodiverse individuals in so many ways, holding a master degree in applied science, right?
Yeah.
Yes, congratulations, because I know in your TED talk you're the first one in your family who could achieve that. Well
I
done.
appreciate it. It was effort, but nice and rewarding.
Yes, especially when you mentioned that, okay, they put label on you at your school, unwilling to learn, right? Unwilling to learn. And
Yeah.
you said sometimes you should really not, or teach at school in your own way, not being present. So like pretty badass. It was very funny. I like, okay, so I'm just continuing. So holding a Master of Applied Science, Nat combines academic expertise with practical experience to drive meaningful change in diversity and inclusion initiatives. Recognized by His Royal Highness King Charles for your heroism and international fundraising efforts, you have received really numerous accolades, and including Pride of Britain Award nomination, right, and inclusion, and Britain under the 30. TED speaker, which I said
Yeah.
brilliantly delivered. Congratulations. I love this bloody TED talk, which you have mentioned yourself. Now I'm staying here and delivering bloody TED talk. Cool. I could refer to me. I will be with the same feeling when I'm staying
I
there with
can't wait.
bloody TED talk. Yes. And of course, a social entrepreneur, workforce development trainer, neurodiversity med expert, you're bringing extensive experience to your work. But I could just continue further on, but for me, it's much more joyful to listen to you. So my first question, Nat, your journey is so inspiring, really, for many of us. Thank you for everything you are doing. How can you please share with us the first, your motivation? What was your motivation to become a neurodiversity advocate?
Well, first of all, that's like more compliments than I've had in a year, so I don't know what to do with them, but I appreciate it. And I guess for me, I never planned to be a neurodiversity specialist. I mean, who really does? It's kind of something you fall into. For me, I always knew I was a bit different, and I was given a label so young. And I find while labels are great starting points, they are very, very limiting. And I was capped so early on, saying, all right, well, Nat, this is great, but you probably can't do this. Don't worry about reading, don't worry about that. And I'm just like, well, why? I want to do these things. I'm a curious person. I love learning. I find it really, really difficult, or I thought I did. But what I really found difficult was learning how the education system expected you to learn. And that was kind of the biggest roadblock. And I noticed whatever I did in life, whether it was academia, relationships, professional work, I was having barrier after barrier. And being someone who loves a bit of self development, I was never afraid of working on myself. But the more I learned about the brain, the more I started to think, you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I think maybe the system's broken. And you just start going down different rabbit holes. So I started learning about the brain on my I used to ditch school, and I'd learn about the brain. I would find out all the history about how people have been treated in the past. Essentially, I just go down lots of little rabbit holes. And when I started learning more about it, I started to see myself in what I was learning, but also seeing that there were parts of me that I didn't see. And maybe the labels that we have been given don't give someone the full picture. And then I started sharing my experiences. I think I realized my mum probably is neurodivergent, though she's never been diagnosed. And I can kind of see a lot of her traits in myself. And in short, when I worked for the media for a little while, I did a lot of volunteering as on the side. And then I just thought, I enjoy that more. I get more self-worth and fulfillment from it. So I swapped my main career and my hobby, and I switched them around. So while I still do media related things, I get a lot of fulfillment through educating people, taking super complex subjects which are really not accessible to the every person, and make them nice and easy that everyone can learn from it. And just kind of spread the good word of neurodiversity, because like you said, all these words, disorder, broken, damaged, illness, like that, they're horrible. But not just that, they're actually false, because they don't tell you the whole story. What I find really interesting is that when you look at the history of all these developmental differences or disorders, they were created by a neurotypical person. So a person who thinks more or less the same as everyone else. They saw us as a problem, and they were like, oh, you're a bit of a problem. I'm going to give you a label to basically say, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm okay, you're broken. And then I will tell you how to change, to sort your life out so you integrate better with the rest of the world around us. And I'm like, whoa, 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 why don't you change to fit into my world? Now, can you see, you get a bit of an odds here? And neurodiversity isn't about boxing people in. Ultimately, it's about neuro, as in how the brain thinks, neuro pathways, and diversity. We're all different. So if you have a brain, you have neurodiversity. And that's why I love the term, because it's all encompassing. It doesn't exclude people, whether or not they come from a privileged background that may or may not have a diagnosis. Personally, I don't give a monkeys if you've got dyslexia, dyspraxia, or autism. What I care about is how you learn and how you think, and trying to adapt processes to kind of fit in with that. So yeah, I do teach about all these labels, but I find it's a good entry point to kind of hook people in, get them interested, and then start pulling it apart and think, what do we really mean? You say you're autistic. What do you even mean by that? And trying to get to know the person a bit better.
Yeah. Yes, amazing. It's true. What gives me sometimes absurd or nonsense or ironically approach that we kind of all know that all these great inventions in our life before and now, and especially if we are talking about creative domain in our life, we know it's kind of takes of bunch of people who has very special skills. And for us, like, we know maybe the most propelling, the most industrial inventive things, they are actually created by people with very special skills, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, but ironically, we are forming the society, we are propelling the society, but yet we don't feed the society, right? So it's
Yeah.
like it's amazing how, like, all people want everything should be further discovered, and a lot of research and development, especially in medicine, critically important topics, like like we had COVID and many different diseases, and after that we can discover that many people who really, like Charles Darwin, like Thomas Edison, like Michelangelo, Nikola Tesla, right? So
Yeah.
all of them, they are absolutely not neurotypical persons, and they have invented, like, and Alan Turing, these great things. So then we kind of, we say, yes, we appreciate really that, but we don't think this is odd, this is weird, this is too much, right? It's still
Yeah.
very fit culture in organization, really. You should, but if you're too much, oh my god, no, it's too much, it's stressful. So, but at the same time, like you mentioned in your TED talk, like, come on, look, biodiversity is essential, right, for healthy
Yeah.
system. But our human diversity, no, it's not essential to survival. This is nonsense, right?
Absolutely. I would always ask a question like, what honestly is the difference between talking about neurodivergence and talking about innovation? They have very different connotations, but essentially they're the same thing. Innovation is coming up with new ideas that have new purposes,
Mhm.
and neurodivergence is about thinking in that way, which kind of gives birth to these new ideas. These great inventors that you speak about, they sometimes can be a slight bit controversial because, like, well, are they neurodivergent? Well, that's the beautiful thing about it. I cannot tell you honestly if Einstein was autistic. How could I possibly know that? But what I can tell you is he did think differently. And that way he thought differently is now praised. But whether something is praised as an advantage or a superpower, or shunned as a disorder or something not to talk about, well, that depends on whether or not someone is able to jump across all those boundaries one after the other and eventually reach success. Think about how many amazing people this world has given that has never reached their full potential because for one reason or another the barrier was too high. We've got so many great examples of amazing individuals, but they needed the right platform. So I look at people like Vincent van Gogh, who in his life only sold 2 paintings, I believe. He
Mm,
was miserable by the end, and now we see him as a success.
yeah.
So it seems a shame that why do we have to wait for someone to achieve before we appreciate them, and we can't appreciate them beforehand? So I think we need to like reevaluate, treat people as success before they reach their success, and then it might nurture them to kind of blossom earlier on. Because I reckon we've only got like the tip of the iceberg of these massive success stories. Where are all the others? And there really aren't that many success stories of people who have outrightly said, hey, I am neurodivergent, because you wouldn't talk about it. There's a reason why, love him or hate him, Elon Musk, not that long ago, came out as Asperger's, which was previously a form of autism.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he only talk about it now he's one of the successful guys on the planet? It's
Mm-hmm.
because stigma isn't going to affect him now. There's no amount of bad press which is going to bring him down. So people contribute his success to the diagnosis. Where I guarantee you, had he have mentioned it when he was starting off trying to get seed funding, people would have seen it as an absolute negative. So it is interesting how our perceptions changed based on people's level of success.
Yes, I fully agree. We need really systemic change and rebranding of our brain. And again, systemic change, even the word change, it depends when people doing something differently, right? But if
Yeah.
everybody the same, how we can actually change something if blind thinking will be from all surroundings. And yes, like you said also, absolutely, like Van Gogh and many other examples, why we don't really appreciate people while is this still alive, and when we can influence their lives, right? And what really frightens me in this whole subject, like you mentioned brilliantly in your TED talk, that can you just imagine 70% of people with autism, right, in unemployment, 70%. and and I know from other statistics that uh, this is dramatical problem, but what is even more scary about the significant number of people with diagnosis or with these outgoing labels, they experience much severe depression, 300 times much severe than
Yeah.
neurotypical persons, and 400 times more tendency to suicidal. and
Mm.
and one of fifth person in this world is neurodivergent. If you just think about scaling of that, right, how dangerous it is actually if we really still continue going with these labels, if we really are not into systematical change, because change at least raise curiosity, it's bridge to education, and when it's education, at least we can have some threats that we could have self advocacy, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, maybe you started learning speciality of your brain and how you came yourself to, oi, that's nothing wrong with me, I'm just different. And you said mama, your mom, she has never been diagnosed, because it's called the lost generation of autism,
Yeah.
because they never know that girls display and present differently. It came official papers came 2016 that ladies actually totally different. So can you imagine how many people was not identified? It means that they never came, they never got support, and support means services in the society, right? And then it leads to depression and suicidal. Everything is so interconnected.
Yeah.
So
I am kind of, from what you mentioned, kind of torn a bit between, on one hand, we need to get more people diagnosed so they can have access to support systems. But on the other hand, I actually think we need to scrap the labels altogether.
yeah.
And the reason I say that is that, as I said, we give people labels who are different from us, who do not integrate or gel with how we expect people to behave. And that is going to be problematic. I've got a bit of a theory that neurodivergence has always been a thing. Maybe it's not so much of a theory, but the world has always thought different. And if we go right back to our caveman and ancestors, where we had hunters and gatherers, they're two very essential types of thinkers and doers, but were different, and they were great for being different. And as time kind of progressed on, we had artists, we had people who would come up with like theories and ideas and teachers. And then the Industrial Revolution happened, and we're like, you know what? Let's start streamlining. Let's start making a cookie cutter mold where everyone looked exactly the same as each other. It allowed us as a society to upscale, to industrialize. But the consequences of that is that we stifled innovation, meant that if you did think differently and if you did take adjustments, that was no longer seen as the optimal way of being.
Yeah.
And that has gotten us so far in history, but it's also gotten us to the point where we're starting to stagnate now. But I do think there's a silver lining. And I think with the rise of AI, artificial intelligence, where computers are now becoming the optimal human being in terms of following processes and routines, it leaves a massive gap for those who do not think like computers, who can kind of break the mold. So I like to say that there is like a renaissance happening for neurodivergent people. And it's part of the reason why we're even talking about it today, because businesses cannot go on. There is a massive skills gap in all sectors. There aren't enough people to fill these high-end roles. And now they're looking at neurodivergent people. So once again, it's only now that we are becoming useful / successful that people are taking notice of us. And I just hope that we can keep developing our understandings, because you are totally right. Women could not have autism. Adults could not have autism. And obviously that's completely false, but those sort of stigmas have really stayed in place. So we've come a really long way now, but essentially, if you are white, if you are male, and if you come from a privileged background, you will get a diagnosis and you will get support earlier on, and you very well may turn out to be one of these geniuses that we praise every day. For instance, Elon Musk, yeah, he probably is a smart guy, but he was also very wealthy. You know, that success didn't come from nothing. What about the people who maybe come from a minority background, might be female, might not have as much money as their peers? How do we make sure that their innovative brains are heard and listened to? And if we aren't careful, while there is a renaissance happening with AI is only good as the information we feed it. And there is a real worry that AI is going to be biased towards neurodivergent thinkers. For instance, you go to a job application and you're kind of doing the whole like AI screening. It is looking for a very, very particular type of person. And if you don't meet that needs, you are going to be unemployed. So I often ask employers, why do you think 70% of autistic adults are not in employment? Is it because of the autism, or is it because of how society reacts to the autism and the lack of adjustments? Some people with autism aren't able to work. Other people without autism aren't able to work. There are some, I'm not saying everyone, but the vast, vast majority of people who think differently are more than capable of being able to contribute to society, and they want to contribute to society. The barrier is us. Why aren't we adapting? And why are we changing so slowly? We are depressed. You know, we're on antidepressants. We have anxiety, not because genetically we're more dispositioned to it, but because you try going your whole life with always having to fake who you are, always trying to swim upstream. You are going to get tired. You are going to get burnt out. If it could have been different, you know, maybe we could have been the dominant ones and those neurotypical could have been the ones on the fringe of society. Maybe women could have been the kind of dominant sex who kind of were able to be in control, and men were the ones who had the gender pay gap. The world has become the way it is, and it could have turned out in any number of ways. So I think it is the duty of those who are in the minority to not just accept that different exists, but to level the playing field. Sorry, I get way too passionate about it.
Yes, I love it. Me too. So I'm really basically sitting now and like meditate. Valeriya, remember, it's now his turn to talk, because I'm also so eager to talk about passion thing, and then I want to really like you come with this waterfall, but now it's my learning skill, but maybe also my OCD that like I am learning to listening people. It's really like, for me, it's not that easy, believe me.
Oh, I
Maybe
get it.
my specialty. But yes, because so much you have told now, I could reflect it, like immediately wanted to add something. But it's so important for me also to understand your opinion, because yes, everything what you have described now, I'm so fully agree. And I like very much the quote of Cindy Coupe. I also, after your TED talk, two persons there, like very pen automatically on my desktop, and I could hear her a TED talk about also neurodiversity. And then she described it brilliantly. Like, she said that she doesn't understand why we are really create this very advanced society, but we don't fit in. And then really about this depression and suicidal, she's like, oh my God, we are stuck on the fridge and it's killing us. So we should really doing something, and not just we like many things. Yeah, we should be accepted. No, I'm not agree on that. Not just accept. For me, accepted and tolerated, acceptance and tolerance. It's absolutely not enough. It's not enough positive word. Why I should be just accepted or tolerated? No, I want to be embraced, valued. I want to be encouraged, to be really treated like I'm also very special. And why I should all the time try to prove that I'm good enough? Why? Because I'm just different. There is no make sense. Plus, I believe, yes, it's renaissance, it's rebranding now. And I'm so agree with you that look from the perspective that everything which is really needed for this evolution and for our planet, and everything and everyone who's really the strongest one, it's still flourishing and continue to survive. If these genes, like autistic genes, OCD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, was useless, right? I mean, like everything in our life biologically, and you're studying that from Charles Darwin, like the survival of fetus, right? Just in this really hard competitiveness can survive. And can you imagine, through all these centuries, even if they were not diagnosed, identified, but all these genes which you have in your brain, they're flourishing still. So many people. So it means we should think about that weakness, no, uniqueness. Because if they were weakness, they should be, like, eliminated many centuries before. But somehow they're still now with us, and they're just getting stronger and stronger, right? So it should also give us just reflection. Okay, wow, they're still with us and flourishing, and they give the best results. So no, maybe nature no, never can be fooled. Nature shows how we should really build this, and we sometimes should really get more advice from our nature, right? So I'm just
No, I
about
think
that.
that's a really, really interesting perspective, that nature wants neurodiversity. Otherwise, right, it would have been kind of weaned out. It
Mm,
is not just it's a natural thing, but we have branded it as a disorder.
mm,
Words are so powerful.
yeah,
I truly believe that a neurodivergent brain is going to be the thing that saves humanity. We know that there's a climate crisis at the moment, and if
yeah,
we keep doing what we've always done, we are on a one-stop road to like absolutely Armageddon and obliteration. We're killing ourselves,
yeah,
and we are going to need people who think different. Another great example is Greta Thunberg, the Swedish environmentalist.
yeah.
She has autism,
Mm-hmm,
and okay, if she's got a disorder because she's so narrow-minded, she's so fixated on one thing, she might
mm-hmm,
struggle in interviews. Okay, but what about the other side? She's dedicated, she's unrelentless, she will never quit, she's ultra passionate about one particular area. We've been told our entire lives to not put all your eggs in one basket,
mm-hmm,
because if you trip, you have nothing. But
yeah,
what if we allowed people to be all in on something? Hey, if you struggle with, I don't know, communicating, or struggle in maths, or some areas, what about if you just didn't do it and you put everything into one area.
You love, yeah.
No, we are not islands. People work best when we are collaborative. I know
Mm-hmm.
my spiky profile. I know there are some things I'm amazing at and I
Mm-hmm.
will lead on them, but I know there are things that just aren't my forte. But that's
Mm-hmm.
okay because my colleague is amazing at those and they're
Exactly.
not so good at the thing. So, like, we balance each other out. Stop looking for generalists and start looking for specialists and have a diversity of thought.
Absolutely. Because without rain, there is never a rainbow. We need all
Yeah.
that. It's true. But I would like we have speak about so many great persons and their impact. But now I would like to focus more on your great impact. And can you please share example of project or initiative you have been behind or impacted, right? Which I know already it caused significant impact. Could you please tell about the projects you have been involved and still creating? I know about your uh, achievements and all these prizes I already mentioned, but what could you really, maybe, because we don't have all the time,
Yeah. No,
could
I mean,
make
again, all
the
these.
most impactful? Probably you could say, wow, this is really changed
Hmm. Well,
people's life,
I think
or
you'll
yeah.
find the things that make the biggest difference in the world are typically the things that go unnoticed and you don't get awards for. Awards, schmods, so, they don't really mean anything. They're nice. They go on your mum's fridge, but they don't really do much else. Now, the things that really make a difference are when you do not get noticed. So, things I'm really proud of is I'm the director of the Neurodiversity Employment Academy, where
Mm-hmm,
we essentially teach people who are on the fringes of society to
mm-hmm,
understand their brains better. We teach them to talk the talk. When people go into interviews, let's face it, a lot of us have had a whole lifetime of kind of being looked down upon. That affects your self confidence. I essentially teach them how to change it. Hey,
mm-hmm,
I'm Nat, I have dyslexia. It's my advantage because. And so you go in with a solution rather than a problem and help change the narrative.
yeah,
I've part of my own organization that I do on the weekends, Divergent Thinking. I teach autistic children how to make video CVs because a lot of them, while on paper, they lack conventional qualifications, which are normally seen as the entry point to get into jobs.
mm-hmm,
Their personalities more than speak for themselves. They are highly dedicated, really motivated. They have great retention rates. So
mm-hmm,
we let themselves speak for themselves.
mm-hmm,
Another thing, I'm really, really proud of a community I created every single Thursday. Me and my team, we deliver free webinars aimed at neurodivergent people, once again, to understand their brains better. My master's I did in neuroscience, I got all of that really amazing material and I made it in a way that everyone could understand. So again, it's putting you in the driver's seat. No longer are you the person who gets labeled because you're different. You're the person who gets to define yourself in your own vocabulary. So yeah, I'm proud of that.
absolutely fantastic of that. We don't need to feel just excused, be excused, and are victims. We are captains of our uh, destinies, and sometimes just because of the all these barriers, we really lack of really like roadmap, right, or rule book,
Yeah.
because kind of taught from school age that no, this is just one rule book and this is just one right roadmap, but we don't understand, it doesn't appeal to our uh, way of processing the world information. Because basically, I don't know, our listeners, we were so eager to start discussing the subject, but neurodiversity, it's actually uh, the whole idea that our senses and feelings and emotions, they're not different, we just process them differently. Just our brains, right, it's not weird, it's wired differently. I liked very much, it's
Mm.
almost the same word, but it's if you put this I two spots down, and it just, because it's a lot about narrative and vocabulary,
Mm.
it's not weird. Put this letter, it was wired, we are wired differently.
Mm.
That's why it doesn't mean that we are less um, valued, or we are broken. So I'm so great that you are behind this initiative, and I was so honored also to to fill the scheme in these webinars, which you are starting from January on Thursday, and I will be more than happy also to participate. It will be,
Yeah,
it will
I
be
can't
great.
wait to get you on board on that.
Yeah,
So we've been doing it for a few years now, and we have like hundreds of people sign every week that are real great regulars. Um, one of the people who attends my webinars, I actually mentioned in my TED talk, Emma,
Emma.
and she's just an example of many, many people who attend. These are really, really smart people, but they are ridiculously long-term unemployed. And you think, well, something's not adding up here. And the thing is, recruitment process is set up to make us fail because it isn't looking for people who might come at problems from a different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost many a jobs because of psychometric testing. And that's why the webinars are so important, because it allows you to advocate for your own thing. So you go to a job, let's say they have psychometric testing, you might think there's nothing I can do. I'm going to fail. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what happened if you went to the HR and you told them why you shouldn't do it? Should we have to be responsible for always having to fight the system? Hell no.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, that's where we're at the moment. So at least it gives you a fighting chance. And we've been doing this as a community for a couple of years now. And it's gotten to the point now where I'm like, real content, I've got my opinions and my 2 cents, but I want to broaden it out now. So I'm getting the most innovative, smartest minds, including yourself, from all different backgrounds to share their insights. Not because any one of us is right, but because all of us together can kind of add different flavors and to this kind of real interesting tapestry that we have. So I'm really excited to get more people involved.
absolutely. I also say that diversity, it's like rainbow of human legacy. We should really think about that. And before we start maybe wrapping up, so you have already mentioned what you have established yourself, but if you could give like couple just of advices to managers which are still a little bit afraid maybe to employ neurodivergent persons, but already start if, at least getting more curiosity, because I believe it's already a promising start, because more and more we at least speaking and raise awareness, it's already achievement, right? If you can change the life of one person, you change the
Yeah.
whole humanity. So how they should, I don't know, approach, because I have PhD and I'm interviewing people about diversity management, and I'm usually now speaking with like top executives, and I am very sometimes provocative and asking like, okay, you speaking just about diversity, but for me it's like, very nice for profile, ticking off the box that we are that and that, but what is your like really what actually concrete you are doing, and you speak about gender diversity, maybe cultural diversity, but what about neurodiversity? Have you actually started considering that? And then like sometimes they really like, some of them actually try to be open, yes, we are that, but actually no. And then I also ask them, should actually then you advise, like, your executive like us,
Mm.
because I have OCD, should I be transparent about that? It's less chance to get the job, or more, or what? But if you give your advices how we should start approach uh, even broader, like you said, these executives, that they, and show them or give them actually some skills, how they should start creating this neuro inclusive culture.
I mean, that's a big question.
Yeah,
I suppose, when people say to me, oh, is it, I have no one who's in my team who's neurodiverse. Wrong. Yeah, definitely do. As we said, it could be like up to like 1 in 5, 1 in 7, the number varies, but it's a high percentage of people who are
yeah,
neurodiverse. You 100% have neurodiverse people in your team. But
absolutely.
the question is, you don't know about it
Mhm.
because your environment isn't inclusive enough and people don't feel comfortable to talk about it. I have people come up to me all the time, hey, Nat, I've got a job coming. Should I disclose? And you'd think that I would be like, yeah, definitely disclose. I can't do that because I don't know where the organization where they are on their journey. Some
Mm-hmm.
people say autism and they think someone who is completely unable to do any sort of interaction in the work environment. Other people say autism, they see someone with super abilities. And we need to make sure that all of society and all of organizations are on a similar pattern to
Mm-hmm.
understand that this is not just a nice to have, not just something you do to tick a box for social corporate responsibility, but something you do because it makes sense to the business.
Mm-hmm.
Neurodiversity will equal profit because it allows innovation to happen. So education, education, education is always the key way to it, and being open to discuss. If you are a manager, I guarantee you, you have neurodivergence in your life, whether it's yourself, whether it's your family members, a friend
Mm-hmm.
down the road, but share these experiences. We need to break down this glass ceiling. When people hear neurodivergence, they think of some entry level person who's struggling to tie their shoes or something. While
Yeah.
that may be the case, there are many of us who aren't like that. And I
Yeah.
think, I want to see more role models. I don't want to just see your Bill Gates or your Elon Musks, which are kind of too unattainable. I want to
Yes.
see real people who have, yeah, like you said, who have thrived because they think differently. But I don't want people to just thrive because they think differently. I want them to be able to do it without having that kind of cognitive burnout, having to feel that they have to fight every single day of their life to be seen and to be heard. No, me and you, it's clear we've done quite well, but there's with if you are neurodiverse and if because parents come up to me, oh, my child, I've just found out they have autism. Should I
Mm-hmm.
be happy? Should I be sad? I'm like, well, honestly, it could go either way. They
Mm-hmm.
could either hit a glass wall, feel their potential is capped, and become an underachiever and become one of those statistics, which statistically, your child is likely to be unemployed. Or they could be encouraged, could be empowered, could be shown to be an advantage, and they could kind of tip and become absolutely bosses in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think neurodivergent people should either have to choose between being a world famous entrepreneur who's a maverick and go their own route or being unemployed. Why can't we be intrapreneurs, work within organizations and innovate from within? So by organizations being more open to neurodivergence, they not only open themselves up for more innovation, real diversity, which is thinking differently, we're also be going to get loads of people offer benefits, which will more than enhance our economies, which is struggling all around the world. It's a win-win for everyone. And the thing that's blocking us at the moment is stigma, pre-held ideas. Back just a few hundred years, 100 years ago, autism didn't exist. Then it was a thing called childhood schizophrenia, mental health. People were
Yeah.
executed.
Yeah.
They were euthanized in World War II. During like the 1670s, you had like the refrigerator mother, which if your child had autism, it means you were a bad parent. All
Mm-hmm.
of this stigma, it sticks and it takes a long time to get rid of. So a lot of the people who still are a bit unsure about it, I'm not blaming you. I get it. History has been awful. And
Mm-hmm.
for us to rechange the narrative takes a long time. People still think that if you got an injection, that's why you have autism. It's not true, but people still believe it. So, this is why we need to have more open conversations and start educating people and not educate them just one day a year, but educate them every single day. And I believe that is our best bet to creating a more equal future.
Fantastically amazing, and I'm so agree that education, 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 like how you have mentioned, it's the greatest bridge to empathy, and empathy is to real, truly inclusiveness. Together we are stronger, united we are stronger. That's true. Because I'm so agree with you about people really don't know that much. They have so narrow lens to our specialities. Because uh, when I'm raising the topic that I have OCD, so people immediately, okay, so what are you doing? Are you how? They ask me how many times, and then washing my
Yeah,
hands, right?
always.
or checking. I said, no, actually, I don't have rituals. I don't wash my hands, and I have this and that. And they're like, oh, but this is not OCD. I said, yes, it is OCD, because for me also, and probably for many other persons, it's so challenging also because I'm displaying another type of OCD, right?
Yeah.
And kind of, I can be a terrific actress and can really put my together if I need to act and handle, but they have no idea what's happening here when I have these intrusive thoughts, right? So but by being educated, right? So I mean, that's easier for all of us, because actually we are all every day in interaction with diverse people. If yes, one
Yeah.
or different. So you have, like you said, or your employee, or your family, or your friends, or you can be fall in love with one of those persons. So so inclusiveness and education is the most important, right? So like you
Yeah.
mentioned in TED talk, that when you have shared that you had autism, so people start speaking slowly to you,
Yeah.
or you be like really this Batman. The same with me. So
And
I
now,
think
like, honestly, scrap the labels because of, well, keep them for doctors and medical reasons. But for instance, the label OCD is probably not very helpful to you because it doesn't give anyone any more information about you. They have their own preconceived ideas. Oh, you have dyslexia, you can't read. You have dyspraxia, you can't ride a bike. You have autism. Oh, you're going to melt if you make eye contact. You have OCD. I bet you're washing your hands all the time. It's not like that. These are very broad labels which include lots and lots of different characteristics and different traits.
Mhm,
And people don't fit neatly into boxes. It's why you can have multiple conditions because essentially we don't know what to call you. They are very, very broad starting points. And I hope we can change that. Like Tourette's isn't about swearing. Very like 1% of people Tourette's has like swearing variety. Most
mhm,
people dyslexia are able to read. The key challenge with neurodivergence is normally around kind of memory and people's perceptions of us rather than the kind of the headline. We've got the TV and media to blame, like most things. They like a cheap laugh and they'll focus on the kind of key trait and they'll perpetuate it and make a cheap laugh and joke at our expense.
mhm.
I'm all open for a laugh and a joke, but we've got to make sure that the representation is balanced. I want people to, when you say ADHD, I don't want you to think, oh, some like naughty kid. I want you to think someone who thinks differently is able to innovate. I want you to think of how you can come up with support strategies in order to get the best out of them. So we need to encourage positive representation, be it in the media, in the workplace, in just day-to-day conversation around the dinner table. It's these actions which are super small that anyone can do at home now, but over a couple of years, over a few generations, we'll have a completely different landscape. Again, only 100 years ago, autism wasn't a thing. It was like madness. Now it's seen as something which, oh, I'm not so sure about. In the next 100 years, it could be the thing that is kind of driving us to our sustainable future. But that only happens if we talk about it and we start changing the narrative.
Absolutely. We should change, and maybe again, if somebody really, really can be just observative and trust more how nature really give us all this supportive information, like biodiversity we mentioned, and our fingertips, right?
Yeah.
But alike. Why this should be alike? Very strange. So okay, and we have the tradition in diversity is the game changer, and I would like to wrap up with always like a little bit high up notes and
Yeah.
hope and future. Now, like we mentioned, Renaissance. It's like rebirth, and uh, I'm so really believer now, especially this magical time before Christmas. We need more magic, and actually, magic happens also by believers who believes in doing and risking doing things differently, right? So,
Mm.
but I would like to grant you one wish from this. We have
Ooh.
from Aladdin, right? You know this genie. He
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like
yeah.
generous with 3 wishes. But okay, if we a little bit, I have a little bit more shy possibilities. So if you could wish something, can be personal, can be big, can be smaller, but just I'm your Mrs. Ginny today, and you could wish one thing for the Christmas, or that I can really make it happen. What
All
would
right.
that be?
So I'm assuming I can't wish for more wishes.
Oh, what do you say?
I can't wish for more wishes.
Yes, yes, of course you can. It's a tricky one. It's
Okay,
yeah.
okay, a bit cheeky. No, I won't do that. That's probably um uh I don't know. I suppose related to what we're talking about, I just wish that people don't get limited of what they believe their possibilities are um too early on, because it's at childhood where I think we are formed, and we need something to help break the system. As a parent, you pick up chips on your shoulder, and then eventually that kind of filters down each generation, and each generation just kind of continues that I'm no good, I'm worthless. And I want people to be able to be empowered, know that you can be anything you want to be, but you do have to work for it, but it's still a possibility. It doesn't matter what you've been labeled as, you have just as much possibilities as anyone else. But rather than being told you can't do something, being told you might not be able to do it this way, but try and find another way around it. I want all of us to be design thinkers. I don't want, in an ideal world, I don't want us to be diagnosed with things we can't do. I want diagnosis to be a bit more three dimensional. I want them to take everything into consideration. I would love it that we are able to, in the future, be able to say, like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, okay, this is how your brain works. This is how to get the best out of you. And this is the adaptations that might be able to help." So every single person is treated as if they are a blank canvas, and that we kind of create tailored approaches in order to make everything a possibility for them. I don't know what I'm saying, but I just think creating a world where we can all be whatever we want to be, or at least have the possibility that should we want to, should we have that drive, it is something which is within reach.
I I really think it's absolutely adorable wish. Thank you for sharing
Oh.
this with us. And then I would like just to, of course, thank you from all my heart for our beautiful and meaningful conversation. And I really do hope that we will make more uh, neurodiverse magic together with you in the future. It's just the beginning. I'm so privileged now to be in your tribe. And today, it's ironically enough, I had no idea, but today is actually International Day of People with Disabilities.
Yay.
But I have already posted my Instagram that disabilities, no, diff abilities, different abilities, divergent abilities. So it's perfectly for us to wrap up. So I think that we have been discussing it so many times now. We should create more inclusive neurodivergent organizational cultures where reducing inequality isn't just a goal or a box of being taken off on their profile or agenda. It's about celebrating and recognizing unique strengths and perspectives of every single person. Every single person is a unique resource. And real inclusion is at the heart of creating a truly sustainable and resilient future. Together, we can break down barriers and amplify voices that have to be often so silent. United, we are stronger.
Oh, so empowering. I love it.
Thank you so much, Nat. It was absolutely pleasure to have you. And now this is the moment that I feel already like a little bit sorry that the podcast already just the time was flying. But it's just the first time. I hope that we will see you soon again with something brilliant which you are doing. And you're so inspirational, and like you said about storytelling. It's not just like Elon Musk, Bill Gates. Rain Man or Forrest
Yeah.
Gump. We need really, really concentrate about this storytellings of every single person, and together we can make really impactful change for our future, for our kids, Because
Oh,
yes, environmental and CO2, we all the time speaking now about sustainability, and everybody still believe it's more about the environmental part, but we should remember that people profit planet, but it's people again.
yeah,
Every is actually caused because of people and how they interact. Because we live in society, we cannot just be prima donnas and solo. We really need to do is global challenges, and then we should really react globally all together like that. No, like we are here normal, and
absolutely.
you're a little bit strange. Then no, we everybody together be, like facing this challenge, and then we really should say hello. It should be two-way street, not just us trying to fit in all the time. No, we need to go together and meet in the meeting point in between, right?
Yeah, there is no environmental solution to our crisis without neurodiversity.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much. I love what you're doing with this podcast. It's great. I think you're a fantastic role model. And happy birthday tomorrow.
Thank you so
You have
much.
a lovely and blessed day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.